The summer solstice of 2287 painted the sky above New Athens in hues of amber and violet as the first shuttles carrying Crithosian delegates descended through Earth's atmosphere. 10 years had passed since humanity's first contact with the advanced civilization from the Proxima Centauri system. Yet the excitement surrounding the Invincible Armor exhibition remained palpable. For the citizens of Earth, it was a rare opportunity to witness alien technology up close. For the Crithosians, it was a chance to showcase their superiority in mechanized combat. Lysara stood at the observation deck of the Crithosian flagship. Her slender fingers pressed against the transparent aluminum as she watched the sprawling metropolis of New Athens grow larger beneath them. At 28 Earth years, she was young for a Crithosian champion, but her prowess with the battle mech had earned her the right to represent her people at this momentous event. Nervous, champion. The deep, resonant voice of General Vexar, her mentor and commander, broke through her thoughts. Lysara turned, her iridescent skin catching the artificial light of the cabin. Curious, General. Not nervous. I've studied their combat techniques extensively. Humans rely too heavily on brute force and emotional response. Our technology has evolved beyond such limitations. Vexar's expression remained stoic, but his secondary eyes narrowed slightly, a sign of amusement among their kind. Do not underestimate them, Lysara. What humans lack in technological advancement, they compensate for with adaptability and unpredictability. The shuttle docked with a gentle hiss, and Lysara adjusted the ceremonial vestments draped over her slender frame. The weight of responsibility settled upon her shoulders. She was not merely a warrior. She was Crithos incarnate on foreign soil. Remember, Vexar added, as they prepared to disembark, this exhibition is as much about diplomacy as it is about combat prowess. The High Council expects a victory, but a respectful one. Lysara nodded, her posture perfect, as the doors slid open to reveal a reception committee of human officials dressed in their formal attire. The bright Earth sunlight momentarily blinded her, her tertiary eyelids sliding shut instinctively. Welcome to Earth, honored delegates of Crithos, announced a tall, human female with dark skin and intricate braids woven with golden threads. I am Director Helena Okafor, head of the Interstellar Cultural Exchange. We are honored by your participation in this year's Invincible Armor exhibition. The formalities proceeded as expected. Exchanges of gifts, ceremonial declarations of peaceful intent, and introductions to various officials whose names Lysara memorized perfectly, but found difficult to pronounce with her Crithosian vocal apparatus. Throughout it all, she maintained a dignified demeanor, aware that every gesture and response would be analyzed and transmitted back to her homeworld. The delegation was escorted to the Grand Colosseum, a marvel of neoclassical architecture infused with cutting-edge technology. The ancient Roman design had been faithfully recreated, but instead of stone and mortar, the structure was composed of self-repairing nanopolymers and reinforced with gravitational stabilizers. The arena floor featured an intricate display of holographic star maps, showing the expanding network of interstellar civilizations now in contact with one another. Your quarters have been prepared according to Crithosian specifications, Director Okafor explained, as they walked through the athlete's compound. Temperature, atmospheric composition, and lighting have all been adjusted to mimic your homeworld conditions. Your attention to detail is appreciated, Vexar responded formally. When might our champion have access to the training facilities? She wishes to acclimate her armor to Earth's gravitational field. Immediately, if desired. The auxiliary arena is reserved exclusively for Crithosian use, until tomorrow's opening ceremonies. Lysara inclined her head in gratitude. I would like to begin at once. The training facility was impressive, even by Crithosian standards. Various combat scenarios could be simulated through advanced holographic projections, and robotic opponents stood ready to engage with any fighting style programmed into their systems. But what caught Lysara's attention was the lone human figure practicing in the far corner of the arena. He moved with fluid grace despite his bulky physique, executing a series of maneuvers that seemed both primitive and somehow elegant. He wore no powered armor, no exoskeletal enhancements, just simple training attire that left his muscular arms exposed. As she watched, he drove his elbow into a reinforced training dummy with such force that the impact reverberated across the chamber. "Who is that?" Lysara asked a nearby human technician. The technician followed her gaze and smiled. "That's Jamal Washington, former Earth Combat Federation champion. He's helping train some of our exhibition participants." Curiosity piqued. Lysara approached the human, her footsteps deliberately audible to announce her presence. The man, Jamal, paused mid-motion and turned toward her, sweat glistening on his dark skin. "You must be the Crethosian champion," he said, his voice deep and resonant. "I watched your performance at the Centauri Games last year. Impressive precision with that armor system." Lysara was momentarily taken aback by his knowledge. "You study alien combat techniques?" Jamal grinned, revealing perfectly aligned teeth. A characteristic she had learned was considered attractive among humans. "I study all combat techniques. Knowledge is advantage." He grabbed a towel and wiped his face. "That move you're watching is called a spinning back elbow. Traditional human technique. Predates powered armor by centuries." "Interesting, but obsolete," Lysara replied. "No unaugmented organic limb could penetrate modern defensive systems." Something flickered in Jamal's eyes, amusement or perhaps challenge. "Care to test that theory? Champion of Krythos?" The suggestion was so unexpected that Lysara's secondary respiratory system momentarily faltered. "You wish to strike my battle mech with your unprotected elbow?" "Not today," Jamal laughed. "But perhaps as part of the exhibition, your strongest armor against a human elbow might make for an interesting demonstration of interspecies combat philosophy." Before Lysara could formulate a response, General Vexar approached, his ceremonial armor clicking softly with each step. "Champion Lysara, the engineers await you in the preparation chamber. Your battle mech requires calibration." With a final appraising look at the human, Lysara nodded and followed her commander. As they walked away, she could not help but ask, "Would you permit such a demonstration, General?" The human suggested testing our armor against his unenhanced strike. Vexar considered this for a moment. "The purpose of this exhibition is cultural exchange as well as technological display. If the human authorities approve, I see no risk to our technological reputation. The labradorit-infused exoskeleton of your battle mech can withstand artillery strikes." Lysara nodded, but something about the confidence in the human's challenge lingered in her mind. The Crethosian battle mech awaited her in the preparation chamber, a marvel of interstellar engineering that stood 3 meters tall when fully activated. Unlike the bulky, humanoid mechs favored by Earth engineers, the Crethosian design was sleek and conformed closely to the pilot's body, enhancing rather than replacing natural movement. Its outer shell gleamed with the distinctive blue-green iridescence of labradorit crystal, a self-healing material that could absorb and redistribute kinetic energy. "We've adjusted the gravitational compensators for Earth conditions," explained Chief Engineer Corva, her long fingers dancing over the control interface. "You'll notice approximately 7% increased response time due to the difference in atmospheric density." Lysara nodded, circling the armor with a critical eye. "And the cooling systems?" "Recalibrated. Earth's temperature fluctuations are more extreme than on Krythos, but well within operational parameters." For the next several hours, Lysara immersed herself in calibration exercises, merging her consciousness with the battle mech's neural interface until the line between organic body and mechanical extension blurred. The armor responded to her thoughts with microsecond precision, amplifying her natural strength and reflexes tenfold. When she finally emerged from the training simulation, drenched in the bioluminescent fluid that Crethosians secreted during intense physical exertion. She found General Vexar waiting with an unexpected expression on his face. "The human authorities have approved the demonstration you mentioned," he said without preamble. "The combat exhibition will conclude with a test of our armor against the humans' unaided strike." Lysara's inner eyelids flickered in surprise. "They believe this has diplomatic value?" "They believe it has entertainment value," Vexar corrected. "And in interspecies relations, gestures that appear conciliatory while showcasing our superiority serve multiple purposes. The human cannot possibly believe his organic limb can damage our technology." Vexar's secondary eyes narrowed. "Perhaps that is not his intention. Study your opponent, Lysara. Understanding alien psychology is as important as mastering combat techniques." Intrigued by this suggestion, Lysara found herself seeking out the human training facility again the following day. Jamal was there, as she had somehow expected, this time instructing a group of younger humans in combat techniques. She observed silently from the entrance, analyzing the biomechanics of his movements. There was an efficiency to them that she had not initially recognized, a conservation of energy that reminded her of Crethosian martial philosophy, though executed through entirely different physiological means. When the training session concluded, Jamal approached her, showing no surprise at her presence. "Come to study the competition, Champion Lysara?" "I understand our challenge has been officially approved," she replied. "I wish to better understand what you hope to demonstrate." Jamal gestured toward a seating area adjacent to the training floor. "Join me? I could use some rehydration, and I'm guessing you have questions." They settled into seats designed to accommodate various interstellar physiologies. Jamal opened a container of bright blue liquid that Lysara recognized as an electrolyte supplement favored by human athletes. "To answer your unasked question," he said after taking a long drink, "no, I don't expect to damage your armor. That's not the point of the demonstration."
"Then what is?"
"Exchange of philosophy." He set down his drink. "Your technology is superior to ours in almost every measurable way. Your civilization had achieved interstellar travel when humans were still fighting with swords and sailing ships. But there's something about the human body, about organic systems developed through millions of years of evolution, that technology alone can't replicate." Lysara considered this. "You speak of inefficiencies as though they were advantages. I speak of adaptability, unpredictability, the connection between mind, body, and spirit that no neural interface has yet perfectly replicated." He leaned forward. "Your armor amplifies your natural abilities, but it also operates within parameters, follows rules, has limitations that can be calculated and predicted."
"As does your organic form,"
she countered. "True," Jamal smiled. "But the beauty of human combat is that sometimes we transcend those limitations in ways that defy calculation. That's what I want to demonstrate. Not that I can damage your armor, but that there's value in both our approaches." Something about his explanation resonated with Lysara, though she would not have admitted it to her superiors. "An interesting perspective. We shall see if it translates to the arena floor." As she rose to leave, Jamal added, "If you're interested, I'm giving a demonstration of traditional Earth martial arts tomorrow. Various forms from different cultures and time periods. Might provide some context for our challenge." Lysara hesitated, then inclined her head. "I may attend, if my preparation schedule permits." She did attend, though she told General Vexar she was gathering intelligence on human combat capabilities. The demonstration was held in a smaller venue adjacent to the main Colosseum, with representatives from various interstellar delegations present as observers. Jamal moved through fighting forms from cultures across Earth, the flowing movements of something called Tai Chi, the precise strikes of karate, the ground fighting techniques of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and many others Lysara did not recognize. There was a narrative quality to his demonstration, showing the evolution of human combat techniques across centuries and continents. The elbow strike exists in virtually every human combat system, Jamal explained to the audience as he demonstrated variations of the technique, from the Thai fighters who called it Sakti to the Filipino martial artists who incorporated it into Kali, to modern mixed martial arts. What makes it particularly effective is the concentration of force in a small, naturally reinforced point of the human body. He proceeded to demonstrate how the technique could be used defensively and offensively against multiple attack angles. There was an artistry to his movements that Lysara had not expected, a combination of mathematical precision and improvisational fluidity. When the demonstration concluded, she found herself approaching him once more. "Your knowledge of human combat history is extensive." "It's my heritage," he replied simply. "Just as your battle mech represents generations of Crethosian engineering. Yet you choose to focus on techniques that predate your technological advancement. Why?" Jamal considered the question carefully. "Because they connect us to something fundamental. The challenge of survival. The drive to protect what matters, using only what nature gave us." He met her gaze directly. "Don't you ever train without your armor, just to remember what it feels like to be purely Crethosian?" The question caught her off guard. On Krythos, technological integration was so complete that the distinction he suggested seemed almost primitive. Yet there were ancient practices, ritualistic combat forms performed without augmentation during certain ceremonies. "Sometimes," she admitted, "for traditional purposes." "Exactly." His expression brightened. "Tradition carries wisdom we don't always recognize until we need it." Their conversation was interrupted by a group of human officials requesting Jamal's attention. As he was led away, he called back to her. "Looking forward to our demonstration, champion!" The opening ceremonies of the Invincible Armor exhibition were a spectacular display of interstellar cooperation. Delegations from 17 spacefaring civilizations presented their distinctive combat technologies in a carefully choreographed sequence that highlighted each culture's unique approach to mechanized warfare. The Earth delegation showcased their latest generation of powered exoskeletons, bulky by Crethosian standards, but impressive in their versatility. The aquatic Melosians demonstrated amphibious battlesuits that could transition seamlessly between environments. The crystalline Vendari presented armor that appeared to be composed entirely of light, yet demonstrated remarkable defensive capabilities. Throughout it all, Lysara observed with professional interest, mentally cataloging the strengths and weaknesses of each system. None, in her assessment, matched the elegant efficiency of Crethosian design, the perfect balance of offensive capability, defensive resilience, and neural responsiveness. When it came time for the Crethosian demonstration, Lysara stepped onto the arena floor with practiced confidence. The battle mech activated around her body, its labradorite shell flowing like liquid metal before solidifying into its combat configuration. A collective murmur of appreciation rose from the audience as the armor caught the light, shifting through spectra of blue, green, and purple. For the next 15 minutes, she executed a series of increasingly complex maneuvers, transitions from ground combat to aerial mobility, demonstrations of the armor's adaptive camouflage, and precision targeting exercises that showcased the neural interface's responsiveness. Each movement was executed with flawless precision, the result of thousands of hours of training and the culmination of centuries of Crethosian engineering. As her demonstration concluded, the applause was suitably enthusiastic. Even the representatives from traditionally competitive civilizations acknowledged the technical superiority of the Crethosian design. Lysara bowed according to human custom, the battle mech mirroring her movement with perfect synchronization. The exhibition continued for 3 days, with competitive demonstrations, technical seminars, and cultural exchanges related to the evolution of combat technology across different worlds. Lysara participated as required, but found herself increasingly preoccupied with the upcoming challenge, the final event of the exhibition, now widely publicized as Tradition versus Technology, the Human Elbow Challenge. Media coverage had transformed what Lysara had intended as a simple demonstration into a symbolic contest between human perseverance and alien advancement. Some human commentators framed it as a David versus Goliath scenario, a cultural reference she had researched and found absurdly inappropriate given the context. The publicity has exceeded expectations, General Vexar informed her on the morning of the final day. Viewership projections indicate this will be the most watched interspecies event since first contact. Lysara's tertiary eyelids flickered with concern. This was not my intention, General.
Intention is irrelevant now. This has become a matter of national prestige. His tone softened slightly. The High Council has taken notice. Lysara, a successful demonstration will advance your standing considerably.
The implication was clear. Failure, however unlikely, would have consequences beyond personal disappointment. I understand, General, I will not fail Krithos. See that you don't... He hesitated, then added, Chief Engineer Korva wishes to speak with you before the demonstration. She has identified a theoretical anomaly in the armor's response to certain impact vectors. Lysara frowned. Theoretical? Yes. Unlikely to be relevant to the demonstration, but protocol requires that you be informed. Lysara found Korva in the preparation chamber, running final diagnostics on the battle mech. The engineer's expression was difficult to read, even for a fellow Krithosian. You wish to speak with me, Chief Engineer? Korva gestured toward a holographic display showing a cross-section of the armor's shoulder joint. We've detected a potential vulnerability in the thermodynamic response system when subjected to precisely angled kinetic impact. Meaning? In simple terms, if an impact of sufficient force strikes at exactly the right angle and velocity, the energy redistribution matrix might experience a momentary overload before the self-healing protocols activate. Lysara studied the simulation. What is the probability of such an event? Against conventional weapons, virtually zero. Our defensive algorithms predict and counter such angles automatically. Korva hesitated. However, the human's organic strike pattern cannot be precisely calculated by our systems. There's an element of unpredictability. You believe the human could accidentally find this vulnerability? No, Korva said quickly. The force required would far exceed human physiological capabilities. I merely mention it for completeness of briefing. Lysara nodded, but the information lingered in her mind as she prepared for the demonstration. The vulnerability Korva described was theoretically interesting, but practically irrelevant. Yet why mention it at all, if there was no risk? The Grand Colosseum was filled to capacity for the final event of the exhibition. Representatives from all participating civilizations occupied the VIP sections, while tens of thousands of human spectators filled the remaining seats. Holographic displays hovered above the arena floor, showing close-up views of the participants and technical specifications of the Krithosian battle mech. Lysara stood in the preparation chamber, her mind quieting as she prepared for neural interface. This was routine, a simple demonstration, not actual combat. The outcome was predetermined by the laws of physics and material science. Yet a strange tension had settled in her abdomen, a physiological response she recognized as anticipation, tinged with uncertainty. Nervous, champion? She turned to find Jamal in the doorway, dressed in simple black attire that contrasted with the elaborate ceremonial vestments worn by most participants. Krithosians do not experience nervousness before predetermined outcomes, she replied automatically. He smiled. Of course not. My mistake. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. For what it's worth, I think we've both already accomplished what we set out to do with this demonstration. And what is that in your estimation? creating a moment of genuine connection between our species, something beyond the formal diplomacy and technical exchanges. Before she could respond, the announcement system activated, calling both participants to the arena floor. Jamal nodded respectfully and departed toward his entrance point. Lysara activated the battle mech, feeling the familiar sensation of neural interface as the armor extended around her body. Diagnostic systems reported optimal functionality across all parameters. The armor's self-repair systems, energy redistribution matrix, and structural integrity were all at 100% capacity. She stepped onto the arena floor to thunderous applause. The battle mech's feet, leaving slight indentations in the specialized polymer surface designed to absorb impact. Across the arena, Jamal emerged from the opposite entrance, acknowledging the crowd with a raised hand. The interstellar master of ceremonies, a Vendari chosen for their neutral status, floated to the center of the arena, their crystalline form refracting light in dazzling patterns. Distinguished guests, honored representatives, and enthusiastic spectators. The Vendari's translated voice boomed across the Colosseum. We conclude our exhibition with a unique demonstration of contrasting combat philosophies. The renowned Chrythosian champion Lysara, wearing the most advanced battle mech in known space, will face Earth champion Jamal Washington, wielding only the natural weapon of his species, the human elbow. The crowd roared with excitement, the sound amplified by the Colosseum's acoustic design. This is not a contest of victory or defeat, the MC continued, but a celebration of diverse approaches to the ancient art of combat. Champions, please take your positions. Lysara moved to the center of the arena, the battle mech responding to her thoughts with fluid precision. Jamal approached until they stood 3 meters apart, his expression calm and focused. The demonstration will proceed as follows, announced the MC. The Earth champion will execute his elbow strike against the Chrythosian battle mech at a predetermined point. Sensors will measure the impact force and the armor's response, providing data of scientific and cultural interest to all participating civilizations. The holographic displays shifted to show a target zone on the upper shoulder joint of Lysara's armor, the same area highlighted in Corva's briefing. A coincidence, surely, but one that sent an involuntary ripple through Lysara's secondary nervous system. Champions, are you ready? Jamal nodded, beginning a series of stretching movements that Lysara recognized from his demonstration as preparation rituals. I am prepared, she confirmed, the battle mech's vocal amplifiers giving her voice an authoritative resonance. Then we begin on my signal. The arena fell silent as Jamal completed his preparation and settled into a combat stance. His focus seemed absolute, his breathing measured and controlled. Lysara activated the armor's defensive systems, though they were programmed to remain passive for this demonstration. Commence. Jamal moved with unexpected speed, covering the distance between them in a fluid combination of steps that seemed to follow no predictable pattern. Lysara held her position, as instructed, the battle mech's sensors tracking his approach and calculating possible impact trajectories. He circled once, twice, his movements shifting subtly each time, as though testing invisible boundaries. Then, with a sudden pivot that the armor's predictive systems failed to anticipate correctly, he launched into his attack. The spinning back elbow came from an angle that momentarily confused the battle mech's targeting systems, not directly from the front or side as expected, but from a diagonal plane that created a blind spot in the defensive calculations. Jamal's body rotated with perfect balance, channeling kinetic energy from his legs, through his core, and into his arm. In the millisecond before impact, Lysara's enhanced perception caught a change in his expression, a focused intensity that transcended the physical act, as though his consciousness had compressed entirely into the point of his elbow. The strike connected with the shoulder joint of the battle mech precisely at the location indicated on the holographic display. The impact force registered on Lysara's neural interface as negligible, exactly as expected for an unaugmented organic strike against advanced armor. But then something unexpected happened. A cascade of warnings flooded Lysera's neural interface as the energy redistribution matrix at the impact point experienced exactly the thermodynamic anomaly Corva had described. The armor's molecular structure, designed to absorb and dissipate kinetic energy, momentarily destabilized as the precise angle and velocity of Jamal's strike created a resonance pattern that interfered with the self-healing protocols. To the audience, the effect was subtle but visible, a ripple of blue-green energy spreading from the impact point, followed by a hairline fracture in the labradorite shell that instantly began to repair itself. But to Lysera, connected directly to the armor systems, the momentary failure was shocking. The battlemech compensated automatically, shifting its balance to protect the compromised area. But the movement was jerky, uncharacteristic of Krithosian precision. Lysera found herself taking an unplanned step backward, the neural feedback from the armor creating a dissonance in her own motor control. The crowd fell silent, sensing that something significant had occurred, but uncertain exactly what. The holographic displays showed slow-motion replay of the impact, with technical analysis indicating that the armor's integrity had been compromised for 1.3 seconds before self-repair systems restored full functionality. Jamal remained in his post-strike position, his expression shifting from intense focus to surprise, then to concern as he registered Lysera's reaction. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice low enough that only she could hear. Lysera's mind raced through implications and responses. The diplomatic part of her training suggested minimizing what had happened, acknowledging the demonstration's success while downplaying the temporary failure. The warrior in her recognized the need to maintain dignity despite the unexpected outcome. But something deeper, something perhaps influenced by her interactions with Jamal over the past days, pushed her toward a different response. She deactivated the battlemech's helmet function, allowing her Krithosian features to become visible to the audience. Then, she extended her hand in the human gesture of sportsmanship that she had studied in preparation for the exhibition. "An impressive demonstration," she said, her voice carried by the arena's acoustic system. "The human champion has shown that even the most advanced technology must respect the wisdom embodied in traditional combat forms." Jamal's surprise was evident, but he quickly recovered and took her extended hand. The crowd erupted in applause, interpreting the moment as a symbolic bridging of their different approaches. The master of ceremonies floated closer. "An unexpected and illuminating outcome. The sensors indicate that the human elbow strike momentarily disrupted the battlemech's energy distribution system, a technical achievement previously thought impossible." Lysera maintained her diplomatic composure. "The outcome reminds us that even the most advanced civilizations have something to learn from others. This is the true purpose of our exhibition, not to establish superiority, but to exchange knowledge." Her words were met with enthusiastic approval from the audience, particularly from the human contingent. As the demonstration formally concluded and they walked together toward the exit, Jamal spoke quietly. "You didn't have to acknowledge it so publicly. Your armor repaired itself almost instantly." "Truth serves diplomacy better than pretense," she replied. "Besides, the data would have revealed the disruption regardless. Still, it couldn't have been easy. I know how much pride Krithosians take in their technology." Lysera considered this. "Pride should not prevent growth. Your strike found a vulnerability that our simulations had identified but considered theoretically exploitable only by weapons far more powerful than organic limbs." "How is that possible?" Jamal asked, genuine curiosity in his voice. "Our engineers will study the data extensively, but my preliminary hypothesis involves the unpredictable variations in your execution. Micro-adjustments that living tissue makes instinctively, but mechanical systems cannot perfectly predict." They reached the preparation chambers where technical teams waited to examine both the battlemech and somewhat amusingly to Lysara, Jamal's elbow for any damage.
Perhaps, Jamal suggested. There might be value in a cultural exchange program. Human martial artists training with Crethosian engineers, exploring the integration of organic unpredictability with your advanced systems.
The idea was unexpected, but intriguing. I will propose it to the High Council. Such collaboration could benefit both our species. As they prepared to part ways, Jamal offered one final observation. You know what today really demonstrated. Not that human elbows are superior, or that Crethosian armor has weaknesses, but that progress happens at the intersection of different approaches.
Lysara found herself nodding in agreement. A philosophy worth exploring further. The technical teams separated them then. Engineers swarming around the battle mech to collect data, while medical staff examined Jamal's arm. But, as Lysara submitted to the diagnostic procedures, she found her thoughts shifting from the technical implications to the philosophical ones. In the days that followed, the human elbow challenge became the most discussed aspect of the entire exhibition. Technical journals published analyses of the unexpected armor failure, with Crethosian engineers acknowledging the phenomenon and proposing modifications to address the vulnerability. Human martial arts academies experienced a surge in enrollment, particularly in disciplines that emphasized elbow strikes. More significantly, diplomatic channels between Earth and Krythos saw increased activity, with proposals for joint research initiatives and cultural exchange programs receiving serious consideration from both governments. General Vexar, initially concerned about the potential embarrassment to Krythosian prestige, found himself reassigned to oversee one such initiative, a new interspecies combat training facility to be established in the neutral territory of the Proxima Centauri station. The High Council was impressed by your handling of the situation, he informed Lysara during their final briefing before departure from Earth. Your diplomatic response transformed what could have been perceived as a technological failure into an opportunity for meaningful exchange. Thank you, General. And my next assignment? You've been requested as the Crethosian representative for the Joint Training Program. The human champion, Jamal Washington, will serve as Earth's counterpart. Vexar's secondary eyes narrowed slightly. The Council believes your unique perspective on the integration of traditional techniques with advanced technology makes you ideally suited for the position. Lysara accepted the assignment with appropriate formality, though she could not entirely suppress the ripple of anticipation that passed through her secondary nervous system. The opportunity to explore the intersection of their different approaches to combat, and perhaps to better understand the unpredictable nature of human adaptability, held both professional and personal appeal. On the day of the Crethosian delegation's departure, she found Jamal waiting at the shuttle dock, away from the formal farewell ceremony. I heard we'll be working together on Proxima Station, he said as she approached. News travels quickly through human networks, almost as quickly as through Krythosian neural interfaces. He smiled. I'm looking forward to it. I think we have a lot to learn from each other. Lysara considered the human standing before her, physically so different from her own species, evolutionarily divergent, technologically less advanced, yet possessing qualities that had confounded Crethosian predictive systems and challenged her fundamental assumptions. I believe you are correct, she said finally. There is value in both our approaches. As the Crethosian flagship rose from Earth's surface, carrying the delegation back toward the stars, Lysara watched the receding coastline of the Mediterranean through the observation port. The ancient cradle of human civilization gave way to the blue expanse of ocean, then to the curved horizon of the planet itself. 10 years ago, when humanity first made contact with Krythos, her people had approached the relationship with a sense of benevolent superiority, advanced mentors to a promising but primitive species. Now, as she reflected on a simple elbow strike that had found the one vulnerable point in supposedly invincible armor, She wondered if perhaps the relationship might evolve into something more balanced, more collaborative, and ultimately, more beneficial to both civilizations. The ship accelerated toward the jump point, Earth becoming a blue marble against the vastness of space. Lysara turned away from the viewport and activated her personal data terminal, beginning to compose a training curriculum that would integrate Crethosian precision with human adaptability. The future, she suspected, would be found not in the triumph of one approach over another, but in the strength that came from their combination. And somewhere on that receding blue planet, a human who had accomplished what weapons could not, finding vulnerability in Crethosian armor with nothing more than his elbow, was likely doing the same.